It's December 14th, 2024, and I've been away for 5 weeks, traveling in Thailand and Bhutan. So it's good to be back here at Abhayagiri, and it's just amazing that 2024 is almost gone. When I think back to the beginning of 2024, that was on January 4th, we celebrated Longpa Pasano completing 50 years as a bhikkhu, and that just seems like an eternity ago. And now he'll be away for almost a year in England. So I find myself in the senior, I've been the abbot here for a while, but I find myself now for the first time ever in the actual senior monk seat, in the hot seat. So we'll see how it goes. Hopefully you can take it easy on me, because Longpa and Ajahn Nyaniko have both gone to England. It's very good to do these travels and remain connected. So, of course, our teachers in Thailand, Longpa Liam, Longpa Jandi, and others. And I left on November 6th. Actually, I did the first Tuesday at Berkeley. We do this monthly meditation, tea time meditation and Dhamma talk at Berkeley, the first Tuesday of every month. And I thought, I'm planning on going to Thailand. I'll just cover the first Tuesday for November. And I wasn't even thinking at the time when I scheduled that for myself that was election night. So I did the first Tuesday at Berkeley, which was election night. And we did the meditation, and wasn't sure how it was going to go with the Q&A, but it actually went very well. And I ended up, for myself, and I think it was kind of true for the group as well, one of the more peaceful meditations that I'd had in quite some time. And we had just had Longpa Viradamo visiting for our own katina, and he had been following this theme of foreground and background and coming back to the background of awareness, and that the foreground is the objects of awareness, and those aren't a true refuge. The only true refuge is the awareness itself, and that the awareness is different than the objects of awareness, so that the awareness is the Buddha. So that's the awareness that every being has, but then we tend to get lost in the objects of awareness. And if we invest too much in the objects of awareness, then we suffer. So coming back to the awareness itself, and with that reflection, I feel it was quite easy to feel a sense of peace even in that particular situation. And then the next day I headed out for Thailand, and I pretty much went straight up to Ubon. So flew into Bangkok, was there for a day and a half, and then went up to Ubon, the northeast of Thailand, where our own monasteries, where this monastery comes from. Abhayagiri Buddhist Monastery is branch number 253 of Wat Nong Papong in the Ajahn Chah tradition. And so getting to visit Wat Pananachat, Wat Nong Papong, and getting to be at their katinas. So Wat Pananachat had their katina on November 9th and 10th. And it was actually good to go during katina season, because normally the traveling season for us Western monks, if we go to Thailand, it's kind of December, January. But then there's a lot of other abbots and Western monks there, so we don't get connect so much with the communities. So I found I was the only international visitor at Nanachat at that time, so I got to connect with the junior monks and connect with the community there. It's bigger than our community. They've got, I think it's like 25 bhikkhus, 5 novices, and 5 anagarikas or something like that. Then getting to go to the Wat Papong Katina, that was on November 15th, and getting to see the senior monks there, and getting to help do the robe sewing also at that Katina. And for those who don't know, it's part of what we do in our tradition, in this Theravada Buddhist tradition. We observe this ceremony known as Katina, and it happens at the end of the annual Vasa or rains retreat residence. So we observe it according to our rules here, but of course the summertime isn't rainy here, but it is in Southeast Asia. So it's the full moon of July to the full moon of October. And so it's 3 months, and the community is much more stable during that time. And then the Buddha allowed this katina ceremony to occur for the community that spent the rains retreat harmoniously together. Then they're able to, the monks will come together, and it's a cloth offering ceremony where the lay community comes together, offers cloth and other requisites for the Sangha, for the community. And then a piece of cloth is chosen and a robe is sewn in one day. So the whole community helps with it. And last 3 katinas, we've done the hand sewing of the robe rather than using the machine, although the machine sewing is allowable. We've did the hand sewing. So everybody comes together and helps to hand sew the robe, and everybody has to help for this robe to get done. So it's white cloth. We use 100% cotton thread, and then it gets sewn in a certain traditional pattern, and then we dye the cloth, and so it's cut, sewn, and dyed before the next dawn. And so we usually finish this robe in between 6 and 8 hours if it's hand sewn. So there is a big coming together of the lay community. It's the biggest single offering day of the year for the community. And our last katina, I believe, on November 3rd, we had about 400 people here who came together for that. And a place like Wat Pah Pong, they'll have probably about between 3,000 and 5,000 people come for their katina, about 300 monks. So it's a very big community. And just for those of you who might not know what katina is, that's what we do every year. And that's kind of a part of the pulse of our year. It's something we do on an annual basis. So because we have this month after the rains residence, which is called katina season. So different monasteries will have their katinas on different days, so that one monastery can have their katina, and then the monks from that monastery can go and attend another katina. And the monks from various monasteries will go around to their friend monasteries through that whole month and attend different katinas. So the fact that Wat Pah Nanachat's katina was on a different day than ours, and Wat Pah Pong's katina is usually the last katina, the end of that katina month. So it means we can attend these different katinas and reconnect with our friends and help sew the robe and whatnot. So a sense of international communal harmony, and we're part of a very, very big family in this particular tradition. And why do people come together and support this? So as a monastic community, we don't actually do very much. The senior monks give talks, teach. We do some administrative work. The other community members help keep this place going. But we aren't, going out and necessarily achieving great things in the world. Why would people want to come together and support something like a katina ceremony? We're just here doing our practice, keeping our precepts. And that's why we're supported. That's something rare in the world. So many people recognize that as individuals, as the monastic community here, we're doing our thing, we're doing our daily practice, we're keeping our precepts, and then the lay community has a chance to come here and keep precepts as well. And we're really doing it. We're sustaining the practice, and this place is run completely by generosity. So over time, that builds up a really strong sense of family and community, a very large number of people worldwide, and people develop confidence and bright faith in what we're doing, and then they want to support that and get it. There's also drawn to a good feeling, a feeling of pure conduct, a feeling of people who are cultivating the pure heart, and that has a certain flavor to it. And it's like Ajahn Chah would say, if the you don't have to advertise what you're doing. You don't have to go out and be putting posters up about what you're doing in the monastery in order to get support. He said, if the soup is good, people will hear about it. So, and the whole ethos with our monasteries is that if people want us here, then we'll be supported. And if people don't want us here, then they'll stop supporting us and we'll have to leave, go somewhere else. So it's this sense that the practice, if we're practicing, then the support will come. And they even say this in other traditions too of Buddhism. In Tibet, they have this tradition of being in long retreat. And they say if the yogi doesn't roll down the hill, noodles will roll up to them. So that's kind of true for us as well. If we don't slide down, if our precepts don't degenerate, and if we keep practicing, then the support comes. It's only natural that people are going to want to support that and then plug into it, be a part of it. So what are we doing in terms of the meditation, in terms of the practice? We'll talk a little bit, just briefly, about meditation practice, about how Buddhist meditation might be different from other types of meditation. And the Buddha taught mindfulness meditation, that is Buddhist meditation. So this idea of mindfulness comes from the Buddha and doesn't really come from anywhere else. And so if we've heard the word mindfulness, that's directly taken from the Buddha's teaching, and that's the root of it. So mindfulness meditation is what we're trying to do here. We keep the precepts and the daily schedule, and any work that we do here is to facilitate that ability to do some mindfulness meditation. And so to know what mindfulness meditation is, then we can think about how the mind habitually reacts to things. And there are these normal habitual reactions which we will all have to certain situations. So when pleasant things happen to us, or we experience pleasantness, we experience things that are nice and delightful, good, then the habitual mental reaction is to attach to it, to want more of it, to grasp onto it. So when we get something good, we want to grasp onto it. That's the default mental reaction to pleasure, is attachment. And then there is the default mental reaction to the unpleasant, pain. That is aversion, to try to get rid of it, to try to push it away. So there's those two reactions. And then if we experience neutral things, then we might get bored or just want it to be more exciting, want it to be at least something pleasant or unpleasant, because it's better than just not having anything interesting. So there's those three types of feeling that we can experience. There's the pleasant, the unpleasant, the neutral. And we just keep getting buffeted around by those feelings. And the entirety of our experience is, it all comes together on feeling. However, whatever thoughts we have, whatever we do in our lives, there's always going to be a feeling tone to it. So pleasant, default reaction, attachment; unpleasant, default reaction, aversion. And with mindfulness meditation, there's another reaction we can train ourselves in, which is to know it. So the more we come back to the awareness of just knowing what's happening, so it's not that we're not experiencing it, we are experiencing these feelings, but rather than blindly reacting to them, we can know them. We can know them and then contemplate them, reflect on them, rather than just following them right away. And really, at its essence, that's what mindfulness meditation is we're just getting to the point where we're no longer a slave to our feelings. It's not like we're aiming to not have feelings. That's not the goal of mindfulness meditation, but just to know them, And then that's the path of practice. Within that, various hindrances arise, and it's difficult. We'll find we can't just do that. We have to learn how to do it little by little. So the mind will fall into its habitual ruts, its habitual hindrances, whether it's, the Buddha talked about 5 hindrances that come up when we're doing mindfulness meditation. And that is, the first hindrance is sensual desire. So the mind will start to have a sense of longing and attachment, which it's had for a long time. And it will then give rise to its own cravings and longings and hopes and fears connected with sensuality. Or it might go into aversion, anger. The mind will start to chew on some sort of old resentment or some sort of trauma that we've experienced in our lives. Third hindrance is sloth and torpor. So that's what I'm experiencing right now because I'm a little bit jet lagged. So where the mind is a little bit dull and we feel tired, sleepy, and the mind isn't that bright. And then there's restlessness and remorse. And this is where the mind is full of anxiety and worried about things, mistakes we may have made, and second guessing ourselves. Then there's doubt. Doubt is just perplexity about whether or not we're doing the right thing, whether or not we're doing the right practice, whether or not the Buddha's teaching is actually correct. So we get lost in doubt and perplexity. So those are 5 hindrances the Buddha talked about that can arise when we're doing mindfulness meditation. And then there's 5 faculties that we should be cultivating over time. And the first faculty is faith. So we have faith, energy, mindfulness, mental steadiness, samadhi, and wisdom or discernment. So when we cultivate those 5 faculties, in the course of those faculties are going to be what helps us to come back to a sense of awareness and knowing the feelings and the mental states as they arise and not becoming a slave to them. So faith, the word is saddha in Pali. It's usually translated as faith. And another good translation is confidence, where we have a sense of confidence that what we're doing is correct, that there is, if the Buddha's teaching, when followed, is actually efficacious. So we develop confidence in this. And it's also said that sila saddha sampanno, that the precepts that we follow are perfected through faith. So that when we follow precepts, whether it's the 5 precepts, the 8 precepts, the 10 precepts of the novices, or the 227 precepts of the monks, then those precepts, we accomplish them and perfect them through faith. So if we're lacking in this sense of faith or confidence in the teachings, then we might be able to put on a good show when we're around others, but our precepts might lapse when we're on our own. So we do have to have a strong confidence in the efficacy of keeping precepts if we're to keep them all the time and not compromise them. And then the energy, whatever we do have confidence in, that's what we'll put energy into. So energy follows along after this sense of faith and confidence, and then we actually put forth effort. So we could think of energy or effort, the Pali word is virya, and we could think of that as just doing the practice. So rather than just thinking about the practice, we actually have to, the most important factor in the cultivation of the practice is just doing the meditation. So doing the sitting meditation, and we also do walking meditation in this tradition. And when we have the open afternoon period, actually try to engage in some sitting walking meditation on your own. Try to engage in some walking meditation on your own. There can be a mental block to doing this just because we might think, okay, well, after the meal or in the afternoon, early afternoon, the mind isn't so peaceful, so I might as well not even meditate because the mind isn't peaceful, and if it's not peaceful, then I'm not having a good meditation. But it's actually, that's the most important time to meditate, is when the mind's not peaceful. So try to meditate after the meal, try to do some sitting meditation. If you have to take a short rest, that's fine. But then engage in some sitting meditation if the mind is dull or if the mind is restless. Just get to know how that is. And if we actually do the meditation, especially in the early afternoon time, say between 1 and 3 or 4 p.m., what we'll find is that the mind will tend to not be so peaceful at that time, and that those are harder times to meditate. But then if we put forth the energy during that time, and then we come to the evening meditation, it's going to be way brighter, way better than if we didn't do that meditation. So we can think about that as putting in the time, but we get the paycheck later. So we don't get a paycheck every day when we go to work. If we got a paycheck every day, it would just be a very small paycheck. Or if we only went to work on payday, we'd get a very small paycheck. So we're not getting a paycheck every day, but meditation is very much the same as this, that we're not getting the fruits of ease and well-being all the time when we meditate, and that's to be expected. That's normal. But if we do put in the time, we will get those fruits of ease and well-being, and that'll be proportionate to how much time we have put into the practice. So when we do the sitting meditation, when we do the walking meditation, even if it's not peaceful, then there will be good fruits to that. It's like, and to really make progress in the practice, we do have to do this. It's like Ajahn Chah would teach his community that when we're peaceful, we meditate. When we're not peaceful, we meditate. So whether we want to or not, then we recognize that this is going to have a good payback. This is a worthy investment, putting time into the practice. And it's a more worthy investment than, say, doing other things that are apart from meditation. So we do have to look after the facilities, we do have to do work, and we do look after things in the monastery, but it's important to get back to that empty time where we allow things to just, and it's only natural that when we meditate, these different hindrances are going to come up, because there's something about the mind when we empty it out and we're not doing anything, then it almost magnetizes different mental states, different karmas into it. And that's to be expected, and that's not a bad thing. That's how we start to gain insight. And then the third of the faculties is sati, mindfulness. And mindfulness is something that we need to have all the time. Mindfulness is just when we come back to that sense of evenness, that sense of refuge in awareness, rather than refuge in the objects of awareness. And so that mindfulness is needed all the time. Then we have the fourth and fifth of the faculties, samadhi and panya, the mental stability and discernment. And these five faculties, one way to see them is they're like sati, mindfulness is like a fulcrum. And then on one side of that fulcrum is faith and energy. And on the other side of that fulcrum is concentration and wisdom, or we could say mental stability, mental steadfastness, and discernment. And so that faith and energy those are faculties which inspire us. Those are faculties which bring up a sense of effort. And then on the other side, the samadhi and panya, those are faculties which are calming and leading to peace. And so those faculties which lead to energy and those faculties which lead to calm need to be balanced on the fulcrum of mindfulness. And so we're using that sense of mindfulness and awareness will balance the faculties. And the Buddha actually had a term for balancing the faculties, and that is the sense of indriya sangwara, or composure, composing the sense bases, composing the faculties. And when we say, again, for those of you who might be new to all this terminology, the sense bases are the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and then mind is the sixth sense base. So when we say indriya sangwara, all those sense bases that we experience feeling through, those get balanced by these faculties. So mindfulness meditation with a foundation of precepts. Why do we even follow precepts? The precepts are for the sake of non-remorse. So very necessary foundation if we're going to meditate long-term and actually hope to get anywhere with it, then we do need that foundation of precepts. Some people ask sometimes, why do you have the fifth precept? Why aren't alcohol and intoxicants allowed? Because in the four precepts, you have the first four of the five precepts, you have not killing, not stealing, not engaging in sexual misconduct, not telling lies or engaging in false speech. Then the fifth precept is not taking intoxicants. So those first four are karmically charged precepts. Those things, if you do them, it creates negative karma where you get negative results. But then it's said that the fifth precept it's karmically neutral to take intoxicants. It just creates a sense of a lack of mindfulness and a sense of bewilderment and confusion. So, but then it acts as the basis for negligence, where those other four precepts will tend to get compromised when we're less mindful, when we're more confused. So that's the reason for the fifth precept, which the Buddha referred to as the basis of negligence. So using the precepts as a foundation for the practice, then when we meditate, we have a fairly clean slate. When we have precepts, the mind will be able to suffer, but it usually won't drop below a certain threshold. When we keep the first precept, not killing, it's very simple, very easy to think about. We cut out any suffering involved with killing. So any suffering that might occur to our mind when we engage in any type of killing, that cannot occur. That cannot occur when we keep that precept. Stealing, any type of suffering that might occur to the mind, if we were to steal something, if we were to have a sense of, we would create a sense of people not trusting our intentions. And if we were to, any suffering that might occur through taking what is not given or stealing in any form, that won't occur to us because we're keeping that precept. So we won't be able to experience any suffering connected with stealing. Sexual misconduct, having trustworthiness in our relationships. So not cheating on your partner, not having someone on the side, then that cuts out a whole bunch of suffering. I don't even feel like I have to talk about it. We just think about it for a few moments and just how much suffering that can cause. And if we keep that precept, then all that suffering is cut out. And then if we engage in honest speech that has honesty and integrity as its basis, and we don't tell lies or engage in some sort of harmful speech. Actually, the old translation of that precept in our chanting book is false and harmful speech. In the Noble Eightfold Path, right speech is actually fourfold. It's not telling lies, not engaging in harsh speech, not engaging in divisive speech, not engaging in idle chatter. But the lying is the heaviest one. So we say refraining from lying is a really good start. And just all the suffering that would happen if we were to be dishonest with people, that having to, what did I tell? What story did I tell this person? And what story did I tell that person? And keeping that going takes so much effort. And all that suffering will, that's all gone if we just keep that precept. And then refraining from intoxicants, refraining from mind-altering drugs and substances, then just think about how much, I don't even have to talk about it, how much we can see clearly all the problems that come from that, all the problems in the world. If everyone in the world kept even half of the first precept, we would have world peace. Even if people just if people didn't kill other people, then we would already have world peace. So this is the power of the precepts. So we can actually see that how much this is a foundation for meditation. If we're too lost in suffering, the meditation is going to be difficult to have enough mental clarity to start to see these processes happening. Over time, the heart, I'll say the heart because it gets to more of a feeling or emotional level in the practice, will start to have a sense of refuge and fullness, clarity, connection. At the tea time, we're talking a little bit about connection and alienation. Be a sense of connection. And we're all seeking connection. We're all seeking some sort of connection. So if we can connect with ourselves, in a way, then it's not going to be dependent on others, and we'll have a true refuge for ourselves. So the keeping the precepts and the practice of meditation is leading to that sense of heart connection with ourselves. And we'll feel at ease. The mind will be fresh and open, not at all stagnate. It'll be bright, radiant. We'll be more and more inspired to practice even more. And then when the heart is clear and open, then that's when we could start to see things even more clearly and have some discernment, starting to see the truth of impermanence and the unsatisfactory nature of the conditioned world, and then ultimately the not-self nature of all things. So that's a little bit about mindfulness meditation. And it's also very good to not just to be in Thailand, but to visit Bhutan for a couple of weeks to see another Buddhist country and how they relate to this. The Vajrayana Buddhism is much more complex than, I guess you could say that, much more complex than our tradition. But the core roots are the same. The sila, the virtue, the sense of virtue. Their own gurus and rinpoches and teachers are always saying, give up bad conduct, practice virtuous deeds, be generous, keep precepts, meditate. So the emphasis is really the same. Yeah, it's very good to see that. So to end, that's one way. Another way we can inspire our mind is that a lot of people in the world are doing this. So we might feel that, the world's going to hell in a handbag and there's no hope. But actually, there is a lot of people practicing in this world. And there is hope. There is a sense of, there is brightness in the world. So it's not all bad. And if we just rely on the screen too much, then it might seem like it's all bad. There are a lot of good things happening in the world, and there is a lot of good people practicing well in the world. And it's even reminds me of a teaching of the Buddha where somebody's asking about the future of his teaching after he's gone. And he said, well, if there's people practicing rightly, practicing the precepts, following the Noble Eightfold Path, the world will not be devoid of arhants. So you can see that in Thailand, and there are still great beings around, and we can still rely on these teachings. We will always be able to rely on these teachings. It's, these things are still available. And those of us who've come here, we're actually doing it. We're actually doing it. We actually are practicing. Even if our mind is a mess, we actually are practicing. So even if our mind is full of defilement and it's not very clean in there yet, then at least we're working at it. We're cleaning it. I've now that Longpa and Ajahn Kurdamo have left for a period of time, I've taken my abbot privilege to take over this room that they were in downstairs and have my own private space. So I was kind of poking around there today, and said, it's really nice. And then there's a couch in there. I wanted to store a meditation mat under this couch, and it just got covered in dust. Thought, there's a place that's not clean. That doesn't look like it's been cleaned in years. So I pulled the couch out, and it's just so kind of dirty under there, and cleaned it. And that's what we need to do with our mind. We need to find that there's going to be places that are clean, and there's going to be places we've been ignoring for years. So we need to pull the couch out, clean the spider webs off, and sometimes to clean these places too, it's not just getting the mop out. We have to actually get on our hands and knees, get the Windex and the paper towels, and use our hand on the floor to make it really clean. So I found myself doing that today, pulling the couch out, cleaning, and then putting it back, and then, that's better. This kind of sense of kind of feeling refreshed, and okay, that place that was neglected for a very long time is now better, and you can kind of sense it. So the mind is very much the same. We can use any of these situations to figure out how to train our minds. So I'm happy to see the community here is doing well, and I think I'll just offer that for reflection this evening. May you all be well.